Good morning. Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Claudia with Claudia's Door Decor, and this is Trisha with Twisted Emerald Wreath. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let us know where you are located and where people can find you.
I am Trisha and I have Twisted Emerald Wreath Co. Um, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I have an Etsy shop. And everything is linked in my bio here on TikTok.
All right, guys. And if you don't know where people's bios are located, there's always a logo at the top left of the screen. If you click on that and then click on the pop-up at the bottom, the same thing, the same picture, then you'll get the profile. And right underneath that bio is a link. And that is where you can find all things that Trisha has linked in her link tree for you. So, Trisha, you are a mom. You work, is it full time now? Is that a full time job that you have? Okay, so you work full time. You're you're a busy life. You have a very, very busy life. So we talked a little bit about how we know you. So you came to TikTok not to be a wreath maker. That wasn't your initial thing. So let's start with how your TikTok journey began.
So, my TikTok journey began with me selling makeup for an MLM. And it didn't go well. People in the makeup industry, MLM industry, are very, very catty. And that is something that I just didn't align with. So I stopped the makeup and then I started selling shampoo. But when I was selling makeup, I was an affiliate for a company that sold hair products. That company was Launch, and I still use like all of their things. But so when I started selling shampoo and stuff, I had to stop being an affiliate for that other hair company. That shampoo and everything, it was so hard to sell. I think my only customer was my dad.
But okay, so but that's real, right? So
Yeah.
so did you have to buy into that? Did you have to yeah, you had to buy into that, right?
I can
Okay,
tell
so
you how much money I lost between the two companies.
yeah, I understand that. So that wasn't working.
Nope.
No. And so you were doing those two things, and when did you decide to switch it up?
So after I got done with the shampoo and everything, I kind of was just posting things with my kids, and then I was really into coffee, so I started doing some coffee videos. And then I started doing a little bit of cooking, and I had a video that went a little viral over beef stew. And
I
there
would
was,
say that 212,000 views would be considered a viral video. And you can find it at the bottom of her TikTok.
I left it there because it's still going.
Yeah.
And there was so much hate on that video. So much hate. And I just ignored it all. Like, I wasn't commenting back to anything, or I'm like, you're just pushing it out more and more and more. Be my
Right.
guest.
But it was 212,000 views on literally a crock pot beef stew video. So
Yep.
go check it out when you get a chance at the bottom of her TikTok. So Wreath Community, which is what we're a part of. Um, so cooking wasn't working out, obviously, too much hate in that.
I mean, I would be open to it again, but it's a lot of work to record yourself in the kitchen.
It is. So who did you come across first in the Wreath community?
Courtney with
Okay.
Seven Owls. And then I found Lindsay with Tarnation Creations. And then I found Kayla with Sweet Girl Designs. And through Kayla, Kat and I became friends. And then Grace and I became friends. And then Kayla and I became friends. And then I became a moderator for Kayla.
So these are all people that if you are an active follower, viewer, hanging up in the rafters, watcher, silent watcher. You know these names because these are people that are consistently supportive and travel in our wreath community. So Katniss is in the chat right now, and we love and adore her. But so is Grace. Grace is another one that is hugely supportive of the wreath community. And Kayla is a designer that we all love and adore and follow. And she is so talented and teaches us so much about making wreaths. So these are the names that she is mentioning and talking about. So once you found the wreath community and you had made wreaths prior, let's go back to that. You had made wreaths prior in 2020, right?
So I wanted a wreath for my door. I didn't want to go buy one. So I got on YouTube and figured out how to make a deco mesh wreath. And honestly, for my very first one, it wasn't awful. And then I made another one for a gift. And then life happened. A whole lot of life happened. And I stopped. And then when the kids went back to school last year, I picked it back up again because I wanted something for my own door. That wreath didn't even make it to my door. It sold.
What happened? It sold.
It sold locally. So I made another one. It sold.
Right.
And then I finally got one on my door, but I think before I got one on my own door, I had sold 5 or 6 locally. And they weren't great. I feel so bad for those people that purchased from me then.
But obviously they saw something, right? Because a lot of times when you are creative, which you are, you're extremely creative, and people see what you can make and they like it, we don't have to understand why they like some of our first creations, but we're so grateful, right? We're so grateful because that inspires you to keep going,
Yep.
right? So you're making wreaths, you're selling wreaths, you're making more wreaths. When did you learn about the higher quality products for wreaths?
So honestly, it was Kayla. It was Kayla. She told me, higher quality you're gonna find online. Don't go through Hobby Lobby. Do not use Dollar Tree stuff. Online doesn't mean more expensive at all. So that's how I found out about it, and that's when my wreaths really took a turn, was just when I started using the higher quality stuff.
So I remember my biggest introduction to you was when you were able to go live before your 1,000. Before you got to 1,000 followers, you were able to go live. And that's when I was like, okay, this is different. Hadn't heard this. You were the first one that I had heard that was able to go live prior to having 1,000 followers. So talk about this a little bit.
So it happened like right after I started moderating for Kayla. And so I didn't know if there was something there or what was going on, but I had gotten off of one of her lives. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, oh my God, I can go live. So I was like talking to Kayla and I said, do I go live? She goes, don't do it. There's too many creeps that night. What did I do? I went live. I literally sat in my bed and just chit chatted for probably an hour with people that were normally in everyone else's lives that I had connected with. They came in and talked to me. And that's how I first started going live. I didn't create anything. I just chit chatted. No, I didn't listen.
I was going to say, Katniss is calling you out. You didn't listen, but that doesn't surprise me. Knowing you, knowing your personality, you're like, well, why not? I can go live. I'm going live.
And I messaged you the very next day and I was like, Claudia, I can go live. I don't have 1,000 followers. And then we really started like trying to figure it out. And I still had to have 1,000 followers to put my link in my TikTok profile.
Yeah, you had some restrictions. I get that. You had some restrictions because the first question I asked you was, do you have a TikTok shop? Because TikTok shop is getting promoted.
I do not have a TikTok shop.
Oh, we went up and like I wanted to know. So I questioned her about everything. And she's like, actually, my daughter who has an account also doesn't have 1,000 and she's able to go live. So I'm like, is this just your state? Is this just specifically your state? Like what's going on? So what we found out since then is that randomly TikTok will send out the ability to people to go live prior to having 1,000 followers. There are some restrictions, like she said. You can't do this type of camera. You can't do um, what is it, multiple guests on your screen prior to having 1,000 followers, but there are some restrictions. But then remember when that person that we found, and I don't even know her name, and I'm sorry, was able to go live with 98 followers? Like she had under 100.
That was crazy. That really threw everybody for a loop.
She had less than 100. She's just like, when I logged in, I just had a notification that said I could go live, so I did. And I'm like, I don't blame you. I know what the heck, Jen says. I'm like, yeah, what the heck? But we still don't know. We still don't know how, why, or anything. It's a fluke and it happened.
And I
But
took it and ran.
we were still very curious. We are still very curious as to how that works or why that works. So, the biggest thing that we can say to you all is there are ways of gaining followers. Trisha, do you have any tips and tricks that you can share with those that are trying to gain followers?
So what I did was I was in like every wreath makers live that I connected with. I was commenting, I was following people. I wasn't sitting there being a silent watcher. Um, and they slowly were coming in. And when I became a moderator, that's really what did it. Because everyone started recognizing me with the little tiny logo next to my name saying, hey, she's somebody that we could trust. Like if Kayla can trust her, we can trust her. So I gained a lot of followers from that. And then when I was able to start going live is when the followers, really took off.
Right. So now you're well over 1,000 followers. So you don't have that. You have all the benefits that TikTok allows. So you're able to post a link. You're able to do this multi-screen video chats and stuff like that. So that's good information for those that are still trying to gain 1,000 followers. Be active in people's lives. Follow people. That little person looking thing at the upper right corner of your screen lets you know who's in the chat. So if you want to follow those people and make people friends that do the same thing that you're doing, like they like watching other creatives and other creators. So definitely make friends that way. So we are working on several people getting to their 1,000 mark still. And we're here to help. So follow each other. I mean, that's the best thing I can say. I can't do it for you. There's no way that I can do it for you.
And even if you're scrolling your, For You page, I call it doom scrolling because you'll be there for hours just scrolling.
Doom. Okay. Okay.
If you come across somebody that you connect with through their video, follow them. They may not follow you back, but at least you made that effort.
Right, right. So going live, let's dive into that. So your first live you just shared, you were just on there chit-chatting. You weren't creating, you weren't making anything. How long after that first live that you were just chit-chatting did you get on to create?
The next day. The next night. I hopped right in.
So there was no fear?
I didn't have a fear of going live because when I was selling makeup, I was going live and coming on naked faced and putting makeup on or taking my makeup off and just showing everybody. It's like, when you have makeup on, it's like a mask. I came on live. I mean, it was on Facebook, but I was going live and I was putting that mask on and then I was taking it off. So I didn't have that fear of going live and creating something because I had done it before. And I'm kind of a people person.
Yeah, you know when you meet somebody and they're just easy to connect with and they're easy to talk to, that's Trisha. She's helpful. She wants to see others succeed. I mean, that is truly who she is. So somebody in the chat mentioned something that I think you and I can address pretty actively, because we talk about this a lot, is Kimberly Johnson, friend, you are so welcome here. She says that she does that. She goes and adds people, but people would get mad when she would say that she does the same thing. They would think that she was trying to steal customers. Now, you go ahead and address how you would feel to have another wreath maker, another person that does what you do, say, hey, I do the same thing. How would you feel about that?
That's fine. You know how many doors there are? There's so many doors. And if you have the ability to sell worldwide, that opens up even more doors, guys. Like, and people are going to buy from who they want to buy from. You can't control that. The other person can't control that. So, say Claudia and I, we have the same, fan base. They're going to buy from who they want to buy from, whether it's her or me. And we can't get upset about that. Look at the big box stores. They all have the same customers. Everyone is going to purchase where they want to purchase from.
Okay, so I agree with absolutely everything that Trisha is saying because we know that there is absolutely no way that we would be successful if we were worried about what everybody else was doing. I can't worry about what Trisha's doing. She's not, and I say this with all the love in my heart, and Trisha knows this. You're not my competition. I'm my own competition. I need to be better than what I was and continue to grow in my craft. Trisha's not my competition.
We're
I'm the
just
one
cheerleaders.
we share. When I tell you we share our information, we share where we shop. We share what we learn technique wise. We share these things because we just want to see each other succeed. I don't want to be responsible for decorating everybody's door in the world. I don't want that responsibility. There's no way. All right, so Jen asked a question. Did you have a business account or personal account on TikTok? Maybe that's the difference.
I was personal TikTok. Actually, when I when I first started posting my wreaths, I forgot that I had a business account when I was doing the shampoo and stuff. So I was on there and I'm like, I can't find any of the music that I want. And my sister-in-law and we were like, what is going on? And we finally figured out that I needed to switch from my business to my personal account. So that's what I did. I haven't had a business account. I still don't.
See, and I'm the opposite. I went full business from the get-go. All my accounts are business. That was just that's a personal choice. Whenever I have a video that I want to post with different music, I do have a backup account, and I use that account to basically grab from. So there is a way to do all things. Like I said, I am business account all across the board on all social medias, but I suggest that you do what works for you. Period. So Lenny said that that's what he says in the salon. If the client goes to another stylist, they can because it's their money. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm looking through the chat really quick to gather anything else that anybody is saying. Yeah, so Kimberly agrees with you. She says she had to switch hers to personal for music. Okay, Janice said she switched to business and then switched back. I get it. So it's personal preference.
And you can
Um,
do that over and over again.
Right.
So
And for me, the analytics on the business side are gold. I have tons of analytics that I use on the different platforms to gauge when to go live, where my customer or where my followers will watch, and then dive into that. So it benefits anybody that knows how to work those things. But if you prefer to have music options, personal is the way to go.
I still get those analytics with a personal account. I can see where people are watching from, whether it's the For You page or through shares or anything like that. I can see the times that work best. I can see all of that still with the personal.
Right, but there's a business suite that you don't have, and
Yeah.
I do have a business suite. All
Yeah.
right, so Jen said once she can go live, she's gonna switch back. That is hilarious. Okay, so here's another question, and we'll dive more into it. Kimberly, hold on to that question because we're gonna dive into opening up an Etsy because we do both have Etsy's, but Trisha has had an experience that she can share with you because Kimberly brought up scammers, so we are well aware. So you're going live. You went live creating. Life got super busy, right? So you had to kind of pull back on going live. So going forward, what is going to be your plan to start going live again?
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I had gotten a job at the Family Dollar Tree here in town. It was supposed to be a part-time assistant manager position. It very, very quickly turned into full-time. Um, so I really had to pull back. I needed to spend time with my kids. I needed to spend time just with my family, and my schedule is not set. I could work mornings, I could work until 2, I could work until 5, I could be working 2 to 9:30 p.m. and not get home until 10. So I've had to pull back a lot. But we just got news at the beginning of the week that our store is closing. So we are getting ready for liquidation, and I will be working a lot the next 3 weeks until our store closes. Um, And so with that, I'm not going to be live. Our store is going to be closing at 7. There's going to be a lot of days I'm working 8:30 to 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. When I get home, I'm not going to be able to go live. I do share my craft room with my baby. So if he's sleeping, I can't be in here. Um, but once the store closes and it's all said and done, I will be coming back full force. And before I got my job, I was full force. I was live almost daily. And I mean, it's really taken a hit on my TikTok and my Etsy because I'm not driving anybody there. I'm not getting any sales right now because I'm not consistent. So that will be coming
All right, so
real soon.
we're gonna put a pin in that. Several people are saying one door opens, another, one door closes, another one opens. So we'll dive more into that here in a minute. So live is on pause, just so you guys know. But she will be coming back full force because she knows the importance of being live online to help people know who she is so that she can then drive people to her Etsy. So the question Kim had was scammers. So opening up your Etsy store, you want to talk about how opening up your Etsy store, how that process went for you?
So I opened my Etsy store actually on my dad's birthday, and there will be more of that a little later. But I opened my Etsy shop on my dad's birthday, which was last October. I pulled everything out of my shop because I had a show here in town and I had no idea I could just sell through Etsy locally. So I learned that the hard way. I would have had so many more sales. Um, and then when I put everything back onto my Etsy at the beginning of this year, I had gotten some messages from Etsy, and I did fall for one. And thankfully, I had my international transactions off in my bank account because I had Elijah send me money into my bank account so I could cover that because they wanted to hold, I think it was 350. So I had Elijah send me that money. I was like, well, as soon as it's done, I'll send it back to you. Well, I had my international transactions off. I started getting texts from my bank that these people were trying to pull that money out of my account and it got denied. So that wasn't the first one, but I learned very, very quickly that that is not correct. And Etsy had already verified all of my information. So those scam messages don't mean anything because then I was getting, it was almost once or twice a week for a few weeks, I was getting those because they're like, oh, you almost fell for it, or you did fall for it.
Well,
So,
that's the thing is once you click anything that isn't related to Etsy, they're gonna come back at you. The scammers are gonna come back at you full force because they're like, she took the bait. She took the bait. And here's the thing. We don't know what we don't know. And that was a big thing, a big problem that several of us saw in our community. Because honestly, when a live creator is creating, making things on their lives, they want to be helpful to those that don't know and want to ask questions. However, they're also trying to have customer facing time, and they both can't really exist in the same place because hearing business information or back end information, as we call it, on somebody's live can definitely not fall over well for customers. Like, it's one of those things that we needed somewhere to go. So we have since created a place where we can get information that we need so that we don't fall prey to the things that we don't know about. So we'll talk about that later as well. So yeah, it's not Etsy support. She had someone message her that they were saying they were Etsy support. It's not
so
Etsy support.
if you go into your email that you have linked to your Etsy, you can click on the sender and you can see who that sender is. And that's really how I put two and two together, besides them trying to take money from me. But
Well, it let's put it this way. It didn't happen again. Like she became wise to it and started being able to connect the dots. So, to just be wise about it. Definitely question it. Just you question it, absolutely, but don't fall prey to it. If it doesn't feel good in your gut, listen to that. And Etsy will not ask you for money. They will not ask to hold your money. What they do though, however, let me just share this really quick. When you first start selling on Etsy, they do have a hold on that money until the customer gets their item, and then it gives it a little time for the customer to be happy about it and all that stuff, and then it releases your money. And that's at the beginning.
yep.
After a while, I get my money next day. As soon as I ship it out, I get the money next day because I've proven myself. I've proven that I am a good Etsy seller. So that's a whole other story. Okay, back to Trisha and Etsy. So did you have realistic expectations when you started putting things into your Etsy store?
Oh, I knew it was going to take work. It takes a lot of work. Um, I definitely didn't expect to post my items and my shop would be empty the next day. I know that I have to drive my business to it, but I've also learned that if you have good SEOs in Etsy and everything like that, if you are going to be searchable through Etsy, you will make some sales too. I did have an organic sale that way. Um, Otherwise, it's all driving your customer base to your Etsy.
So you have to be a student of Etsy and use everything that Etsy has for you to use on their platform. All those empty spaces that you're not filling out could hurt your chances of getting pushed out by Etsy. We've learned that, haven't we, Trisha? So this is all trial and error, and we have learned. Okay, so you had realistic expectations, and you did mention that had you known that that your in-person sales could have counted as Etsy sales, you would have gone that route. So have you connected, huh?
I have gone that route. So I've had a couple local sales and I posted it on my Etsy. I sent them a link. It was obviously free shipping because it was local pickup. Um, and they purchased through there. I had the fees and all of that, but it counts as a sale. And in Etsy, you have the option of if it's going to be a local pickup to put that in so you don't need a tracking number.
And I found that out from her. So the way that I do local sales is I went ahead and connected Square because you can do that through Etsy. And then I'm not paying the Etsy fees. There are no Etsy fees. The only thing that you're paying is the 20 cents to list, and then you're paying the 3.5 credit card transaction that Square asks you for. So there is that. And it counts as an Etsy sale. And that's the big thing, guys, is it counts as an Etsy sale. The way that Trisha does it, the customer can leave a review. The way that I do it, the customer cannot leave a review with a local sale. Greg is asking, how is that done? I didn't know that. Greg, we will talk. We will talk offline about that. But yes, you can do that. And it is very helpful, and it does benefit our businesses. Okay, so realistic expectations, all of that stuff. Now, here's something that maybe you guys didn't know is Trisha has had successful craft shows. Do you want to talk about that?
So I have a lady here in town. She runs the country club, and I am her wreath dealer. She has bought 6 wreaths from me, and I actually, the very first one that she had bought from me, I had brought it home and I had fixed it for her. Free of charge. It wasn't great. It wasn't great supplies, but she had purchased it from me, and she's also the one that told me to up my prices. Because I was selling my wreaths for $35. And she said, you need to up your prices. And I said, okay, I can do that. So I did. Not a lot at first, but I did. She came back to me for 2 identical Christmas wreaths. And right after that, she told me that she was going to be doing a vendor show out at the country club for it's called Brit's Small Town Christmas. So it's just local in my town. I had taken 11 wreaths, 12 bows. 3 of those bows were on lanterns. I sold all 3 bows on the lanterns, and I came home with, I think it was 5 or 6 wreaths left, and 6 bows, 5 bows. It was 5 or 6 for both. I took cash only because, again, didn't know I could direct them to my Etsy.
Right.
And my spot was $30. And Addie actually went with me, and Angie was able to put a small little table next to my table, and Addie sold her bracelets along with me. And we were both successful. I was not expecting that. I was expecting to sell 1 because I knew I was selling 1 when I was there. But it really got my name out around town. There's people that come into my work and they're like, oh, we were just talking about you yesterday. And so I have a good local base.
Right.
But I had a successful first show, and that's not something that I expected at all.
So that's just gravy. So that helps also when you have inventory that you want to move, to take them somewhere where people can see them, because no matter how good of a photographer you are, no matter how great of a picture you get, the wreaths don't do justice. Like, you always see the reviews. It's so much better in person. Of course it is. You know, you can't capture how it glimmers, how the shine or whatever is, or how big it is. I mean, honestly, I'm 5'4". I can stand with a wreath, and a 5 foot or below it's going to be huge, right? Or a taller person, it's not going to fit. And I try to do pictures on a door. Like, I try to give them a visual, but it's never enough. But seeing them in person, whole different ball game.
And the funny thing is I did discount all of my stuff by 15% when I took it for that, because it was cash and carry. None of my cheaper wreaths sold. None of my cheaper wreaths sold. They were all, more expensive. My most expensive one at the time was $125, and that one sold before the show even started.
Love that. Love that.
The lady was messaging me on Facebook because I was throwing myself out on the Brit buy and sell group and telling everybody, like, hey, we're setting up, and taking pictures and posting everything in there. And there was a lot of foot traffic, and people were ready to spend money because it was right before Christmas.
So, and there's also, I mean, that says a lot because there's also the timing. The timing has to be right, and that's just one of those things. It's. Would you say it's a gamble, a crapshoot, depending on what you're doing and where you're going?
Yes. And I was the only wreath maker there, and Angie made sure of that because Angie, she absolutely loves me. She actually wants me to go out and bartend.
Well,
But
that's another thing that we will talk about Trisha's background. But here's the thing, also, you called her you're her wreath dealer, and
she
I'm sorry.
she had a lady on Etsy that she was purchasing from. And when it came to Valentine's Day, she was going to buy one on Etsy. She messaged me, sent me a picture of it, and said, "Can you make this for me?"
See, I'm telling you, people will shop and buy from you. They want to know you. It's different when they know you. They like knowing that they can go to a person that can make all their ideas or their needs come true. I mean, it's just a fact. So building up that local base is super important. You'll hear that from a lot of people that sell. Let me see. Michelle with Creek Road Designs does several shows. She says in the beginning we offered 5 cookies off to follow us on social media to grow our following. So that's awesome. That's a way to do that. That's a good idea. So definitely pay attention to your local market and listen to the needs of the people that are around you because you can fill that need. You can definitely be one that fills that need. Okay, so this has been mostly business talking. You mentioned some of the family members. So
Elijah is my fiance, and he's younger than me.
I did not know you were a cougar. That
he's
just
two,
happened.
he's 2 years younger than
Doesn't
me.
matter, you're still a cougar. I did not know that.
So way back in the day, we were both in high school, and he was a player, like bad. And I straight up told him, I said, "I don't have time for you." And I went off and I got married and had a family.
You're getting a lot of comments. Go ahead, keep going.
And so obviously that didn't work out well. I had my first kid when I was 18, my second one when I was 19, my third one when I was 22. Um, I'm 28 now. Um, and my marriage had ended. I had found another guy, and lo and behold, he was a major alcoholic. Um, but we were together for almost 5 years. He had 4 of his own kids, so I was a stepmom to 4 other kids. So I was raising 7 kids, and that was around the time. But I actually met him online, and that didn't turn out well. But I had a boyfriend in between my ex-husband and the alcoholic ex who had actually ran me over with his car. So he had broken 7 of my ribs and punctured my lung. And then my alcoholic ex and we were talking and stuff. And then it moved very, very fast. Like, we were so good together. And I moved in with him when I was going through all of that. And he drank a lot. And I remember one night it wasn't great. I was crying, all the things, just like in a corner. He was yelling at me. The next morning, he acted like everything was fine. This went on and off we were together, but the drinking was on and off for a long time. And I had finally went back to work in 2020, and I was working in a kitchen. I was a server, and there were other guys. He got really jealous, and he kicked my kids and I out of the house. So
So at this time, she had 3 children. Okay, she had 3 children at the time, and they were kicked out.
I was looking for a place. I had called my dad multiple times because I had found a place, but I needed help. Like, I needed a cosigner, I needed help with a deposit or whatever. And it was a very, very, very small apartment. but it was close to the job I had where I was making good money as a server and tips and all that. And this guy would not rent to me because it was too small of a place, and he was worried about this small little section of carpet that could get ruined by 3 kids that were old enough to eat at a table. Well, that day I had called my dad multiple times. I got a call from my brother. My dad had been on the floor for hours. He was stuck. He couldn't get up. He ended up going to the hospital. And at that moment, I knew I needed to move home and take care of my dad because he had brain cancer. And my ex didn't allow me to go and help my dad at all.
All right, so
And
now we're going into the next part of your story of caring for your ailing dad.
not only was I taking care of my dad, my grandpa's health had declined. And I was living with my dad, but 20 minutes away from my grandpa. And, well, backtrack a little bit. That summer that I moved back home, I stayed in my brother's camper for a week. It was so hot, but I had to get my dad's house prepared for my children and I. So that entire week, I was just working on dad's house, working on dad's house. I was still driving an hour and a half to go to work and back every day. I finally got transferred through my company to the town where my grandpa lived. So I was stopping by my grandpa's all the time, helping him, getting him groceries, but I had been doing that for 5 years already. I would go about every 2 weeks and get him groceries. I then again transferred to a town 10 minutes closer with my job and became a service manager through my company. And so I was still going and helping my grandpa. His health had declined a lot. He had COPD. He ended up in the hospital on a ventilator, not once, but twice. We brought him home on Addie's birthday, and he got on hospice. And then he went back to the hospital. I was pregnant at this time because Elijah and I had gotten together.
Okay, so at this time,
I'm like all
no,
over
it's
the
fine.
place.
It's fine. It's good. So at this time, you are pregnant. So we understand that when people are pregnant, their hormones are all over the place already. You're caring for your grandfather and your father at the same time. You are back and forth. You still have 3 older children that depend on you, and you and Elijah are together at this time.
Yep.
Okay.
And Elijah, he had this house, but he was staying at my dad's with me and the kids. So I was working also part-time, but living with my dad, I was able to make that work. So my dad was sick. He was on hospice. My grandpa was sick. He was on hospice. My mom could not get a hold of my grandpa, and I had been there the night before. I went and got him a few things, made him dinner. He needed help getting cleaned up and everything. I have a CNA background. I told him when I left, I was like, Grandpa, do you need any pain pills? Are you okay? And he had eaten spaghetti. I told him, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow after work.
Just take a minute. Just take a minute, babe. Take a minute. Take a minute. It's okay. You don't have to rush. It's okay. Just take a minute. Okay, take a minute. I love you. I know, and I appreciate you sharing this story so much. So, so much. Okay, so the next day,
I was at work, and I had been there for maybe 45 minutes. My mom called me. She goes, I can't get a hold of Grandpa. So she drove the 30 minutes as fast as she could. They walked in, they found him. And I had to leave work. I couldn't get a hold of my brother. So I had to drive to his house. I got in his door. And I closed the door behind me, yelled at him, Grandpa's dead, and I slid down the door and just sat there. And he was making a bottle for his youngest daughter. And he came running over to me. And Elijah was working overnights at this time. So I called him, told him what was happening. He drove to my brother's, which was like 5 minutes from my dad's, and I was about 5 minutes from my brother's at work. So he came and got me, drove me there. I had to call into work the next day. I had to call my kids' dad because they were with their dad. I had to tell him what had happened and that I didn't know what time I would be home because we also had to do all the funeral arrangements and we had to get a game plan of what was happening.
Yeah.
So that all happened November 6th of 2022.
So your
And
so your dad's still with us. Your
yep,
dad's still with us on hospice. You had just found out that your grandfather had passed. So you're making the arrangements now. What's going on at this point?
I was a mess. My grandpa was my best friend. My dad started declining, which I told my brother, I said, it's not going to be long. He's going to start declining because that's what happens. He was good for his birthday in October. Christmas came and he had really started to decline that January after the new year. He was good for about a week and then it really, really hit the fan. I came home from work on January 26th, and my brother had been there because my dad at this time couldn't be left home alone. He was falling too much. He couldn't get out of bed without help. Me being pregnant, I had to call my brother every morning to have him come help me get dad ready before I went to work. If Elijah was home and not working, he would help me. And my brother and Elijah could do it by themselves. I, at that point, couldn't. My brother's birthday was January 26th, and that's when I found all the modeling on my dad. And dad waited until January 27th at 3:56 in the morning to take his last breath. We were up all night with him. We were turning him, we were giving him all of his meds. And Elijah and I pulled him up in bed, and his eyes popped open. And I told Elijah, I was like, go get Dustin. And then we held his hand. All the kids were upstairs sleeping. We held his hand. And we were telling him, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And he finally passed. And my brother asked me what time it was. I told him I had Elijah call hospice, because we didn't need hospice there with us. Like, I knew what I was doing. I had that background. And the girl from the funeral home that came to get him was somebody I grew up with.
Was that a blessing to you that you didn't have to talk about it? You could just be present
Yeah.
and let them basically help you in that time? Because I mean, how many months between your dad and your grandpa?
Two, 2.5.
That's a lot. That's a lot of grieving. A lot of grieving. I'm so sorry.
And then we got all of dad's stuff taken care of, and I immediately moved from my dad's house to Elijah's house because Isaiah was due in March, and we had to get the house prepared and do some remodeling and stuff before the baby came. And I ended up having a lot of gallbladder issues while I was pregnant. I had to deliver at 38 weeks, medical induced, and then the baby was here. And he'll actually be a year old on Wednesday.
He is the cutest little ray of sunshine you have ever seen, too. He's got bright orange hair. When you think of Carrot Top, like the nickname that kids, that is definitely what this child is, and he is absolutely precious. And here's the thing also, you were going through a very difficult time in your life with the passing of two very prominent people in your life, all while pregnant, and then had to move again while pregnant. So a lot of things are happening at this time. So if you were to meet Trisha today, when I tell you that she has been through a lot and gone through a lot and is totally self-aware, she is the most self-aware 28-year-old I have ever met. But she is also very aware of her mental state. So I am going to go ahead and say that this is a trigger warning for what she's about to share. It is a trigger warning. So if you cannot listen to this, we completely understand. But this has to do with wanting to unalive yourself. So please be very self-aware yourself and know that if you cannot listen to this, this is the time to maybe step out. Okay. And again, Trisha is sharing this to bring awareness that people need to hear about mental health because it shouldn't be it shouldn't be stigmatized. It should be an awareness, an understanding, and also support. We all need to support human beings for being human beings. So Trisha, at this time, you just shared that your son is turning 1 year old, but not too long ago you went through a very dark time.
So I had my gallbladder removed in July. Caden had his tonsils removed the beginning of November. My grandpa, it had been 2 years since he passed. I never really got to grieve him or my dad. And it was a day that the baby was crying. I was home alone. And I just had all of these thoughts go through my head of, well, what would happen if I did this? The kids were at school. I never thought things like this before. I had gotten off of my medication because I thought I was okay. And I just remember thinking to myself, what would happen if I didn't pick my kids up from school? What would happen with the baby crying in the next room? What would happen if Elijah came home and found me? I immediately called the pharmacy and I got back on my meds and I was fully into wreath making mode. It helped. I was getting ready for my show. Christmas had come and gone, and I had really gotten involved with the wreath community and really, ramped up my TikTok and all of that stuff, but I still wasn't okay. I needed to get out of the house. So that's why I went back to work. I needed to get out of the house. I needed that adult interaction. I was at the point I didn't even want to leave my house. Elijah would come home and we would need something from the store. I would have him go to the store. The kids, I would email the school and say, the kids are riding the bus home today. I didn't even want to go pick up my kids from school.
So when you're going through this, right? So when you're going through this on and off med things, we don't recommend that for anybody, by the way, guys. We don't recommend that. That is not what we recommend. She's just sharing what she did. When you're going through this, who knows that you're going through this? Who knows that these are the things that are going through your mind, that you're having these thoughts? Who was aware of that?
Nobody.
Don't do that. Don't do that ever. Don't ever, ever not share with somebody. Obviously not a child, but share with somebody, a trusted friend, an adult, your spouse, your fiance. Don't allow those thoughts to win. Share it with somebody, anybody. I don't even care if it's a stranger. I am so mad at her for not saying something even to her online community. Even though we are not in her immediate, like can't go over to her house and can't, but we can definitely support her, encourage her, give her resources, let her know she's not alone. People are offering to give you their number in the chat. You are not alone. This is not a stigma. You should not be ashamed. These thoughts are real. These feelings are real. and you are not the only one that has them. Do not make yourself be that alone. You're not, okay?
I
And I'm
think
mad at you because I love you. You
I
have
think
adopted me. She did. She's adopted me as her mom. I'm her online mama. But at the same time, I it's not that I don't understand. Like I do understand that it's like you hermitize yourself, like getting up in the morning is nearly impossible. Like I understand that. But guys, we're only as alone as a phone call. Like there is nothing to say that you can't just say the words help. That's all you need to say. Help.
did finally tell my sister, and then a little later on, I had shared with Kayla and Grace. I I shared a little bit with Kat, and then I finally told Elijah. But I was already back to work when I was telling people.
Yeah. Because there's no there you can't heal yourself, guys. This is not something that you can do on your own. Okay? So she was doing what most of us do. We go into survival mode, right? We go back to what we use as coping mechanisms at some time in our life. She knew that she needed the adult interaction, getting out of her house, basically a distraction. Okay, so let's talk about, because this just happened a few months ago, guys. I don't know if you've paid attention to the timeline, but her youngest is turning 1, and her dad and grandpa passed away while she was pregnant with this youngest child. So let's understand the timeline. Okay, so where are we now?
I'm good. I just and working it did help. It helped so much. I'm starting to finally feel like myself again, and now my store's closing. So I'm very worried about my mental health, but it will be summer, so I'll be able to get out and do all the things with the kids and have fun. So I think I'll be okay, but I probably need to get my meds reevaluated.
And here's the other side of this. Now people know, which is way different than people not knowing that she she's going through something. So we now know that when Trisha gets really, really super quiet, just need to touch base, check in, make her be honest, tell me the truth. Just tell me where you're at. I just want to know. That's the thing. Sometimes having that support means the world, right? And knowing that you're not alone absolutely means the world. I don't know if you're reading the chat, but um, a lot of your friends, and I'm going to call them friends because we've all become really close. Angel says, please also go to therapy, your mental health, because that's part of the healing process. Because you don't realize, and I can say this because I've been there, and I know several others will agree with me. But having that grief, that big loss of big prominent people in your life, cause a spiral too, that maybe we're not, it's not always what we're thinking about, but man, those people, that support, that love, I mean, your grandpa was your best friend. You know what I mean? It's like those things are important. And talking through those things and getting different coping for those things. I have a puzzle piece I need to move. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. It gives you 56 seconds to move that puzzle piece. Anyway, I digress. But having that loss and going through that grief, even if we're not thinking about those people all the time, unhealed anything, fill in the blank, is unhealed. So getting that help is important. And I know you're smart, and I know that you'll do what works for you, but you're still a mom, right? You still got 4 kids that depend on you. You need to fill your cup so then you can pour out. You do. I see you nodding your head at me. You do. All right. So several people are sharing things in the chat. So can I go ahead and read through it for you? Angel then says, I'm in the same boat, babe. You are not alone in the struggle. Brooke said a simple check-in can go a long way from someone struggling. Absolutely. Um, Little Luxuries Misty says now now we know and can help support you. Uh, John, who is a friend of mine, he's actually an IRL friend of mine, says therapy is the best gift I ever gave myself. Yashira says, I'm going through the same thing with my son, and I'm telling you, I know how you're feeling. You are not alone. Misty says, also, thank you for sharing as your story matters and can help others. Yeah, Yashira says, your babies and fiance need you. Connie says, you're in my prayers. I've been there. I'm here. I am telling you, there is nothing that you can say, do, what you've been through that somebody cannot relate to. And that is why Real Talk has become so important to me, to this community, to the people that join me, because here is a strong, beautiful mama of four trying to do something, trying to make something, trying to create something that belongs to her so that she can show her kids, hey, life isn't easy, but when you love something and you're passionate about something and it's your dream, you can make it happen. You can make it happen. She's got her oldest daughter, which, by the way, I absolutely freaking love her kids, just so you know. And her oldest daughter, Addie, and I, we're besties. I mean, every time we talk, we're just the best. It's perfectly fine. We got this thing going on. But she set up a table next to her to sell her bracelets that her daughter made. That's teaching her entrepreneurship, right? That's teaching her how to get this thing done. Derek said therapy doesn't even have to be in person. Just talk to someone. You are worth it. Truth, Derek, truth. So there's a lot of love, Trisha. And I don't know how you feel about people knowing this side of you or knowing this about you, but knowing that you have honest support. Like people really do care about this and care about this story because they've either been there, been with somebody who's been there, or have gone through it themselves. How does that feel to know that right now?
It feels nice because I've never really had. I grew up in a house where mental health wasn't really talked about. My dad, he was a boomer. My mom's a Gen X. She was more willing to talk about that stuff than my dad. My dad was suck it up. Keep
How do we
on
do
a
that all
truckin'.
the time? All the time. Feelings weren't validated. You actually feel like there's like you feel that shame. You feel that shame. And not only that, what about that comparison thing? Seeing other people that are doing it and seem to have it all together. That's also a dangerous and slippery slope to fall down into.
I know my ducks aren't in a row. One of them's walking backwards, and I think one of them's a goose.
And here comes her humor, which is how she handles uncomfortable situations. Which we love about you, Trisha. There is absolutely nothing that I don't absolutely adore about you. So the balancing. Let's talk about now balancing your absolutely nutty schedule and all these things that you are going through, being a busy mom, working full time, having children. Talk about the balance.
So my balance was literally put my race on the back burner because I would find a way to fit that in. And it hasn't been great because, like I said, my schedule isn't set. It's not set in any which way. So I'm in here doing what I can when I can. And I've been really, really bad about doing content. I haven't made any content. I've made a few wreaths, but still haven't gotten any content. Um, I have really struggled with that. And I was hoping it was going to get better. Well, now in 3 weeks it will.
But the good thing is that they are taking care. I mean, they're taking care of you for the most part because they know that they have literally flung this on people. So they are giving you money, let's just say that, to get you through the summer, which is going to be very beneficial for you, your family. You're not going to be struggling. So that part of it is a benefit. The next 3 weeks, guys, just know. just keep Trisha and family in prayer. I mean, honestly, that is what is going to take to get them through this. But there is a light. There is a light at the end of this proverbial tunnel, of all the unknowns. You do know that the store will close. It's not a perpetual ongoing thing forever. And that summer will be here by that time. So those are all good things, right? Yeah. And somebody in the comments has asked, can you transfer to another store?
I can, but for my pay, it's not worth it. Just
So
because
that's
I have
real.
a management position doesn't mean the pay is great.
Right. That's real. That's honest and that's real. So yeah, so the benefit of this store is twofold though. Go ahead and share about the fact that your mother, like how you guys took care of Isaiah.
So my mother-in-law, she currently lives with me. Well, us, not just me. Um, but she was already working at Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, and just one night she was on the phone with her boss. I'm like, hey, I need a job. Like, I need to get out of the house. I need to get money to support my wreath supplies.
Truth.
I never even had an interview. But our boss has been so good about, like, she'll work until 3. I'll come in at 3. We'll bring the baby. He gets to hang out at the store for like 30 minutes. Um, and like if she's off, I'm working, or if I'm off, she's working. So we've had a really good schedule, and that's not something that we're going to have anymore. And I really don't want to pay daycare.
As,
Daycare is ridiculous.
as some people have shared, in previous real talks, when you figure out the budgeting, sometimes the money that you're making being out of the house is only paying for childcare. So really, it's not benefiting anybody. But it does, I mean, it does help your mental health to get out of the house. It absolutely does. We all know that. Several of us have had to go and be remote workers where that's not something that we chose for ourselves. Case in point, me, I work at home. But that wasn't my choice. That wasn't a choice I was given. And it does affect your mental health. It really does. It does take a toll on you. So you do have to figure out things that get you around other adults where you're having conversations. And it can be done. It can be done. So right now she's just looking forward to a fun summer. And
And if it comes down to it, we need a little bit extra cash. I have a job at the country club, easy.
yeah.
And I can be a bartender like 2 nights a week.
Yep. So there is definitely things that she can do that will help. And she's also looking forward, and I say this loosely, to her youngest starting to be more mobile.
Oh my goodness. This kid. So I really thought he was going to be walking at 9 months. He didn't. But as soon as that 10-month hit, he was like going. And we had to get another baby gate to keep him out of the kitchen because he was going in there and opening all of the cupboards,
I
pulling
used to
everything
have
out.
one. I used to have one that would climb into the refrigerator. Yes, you heard me correctly. Climb in the refrigerator. I don't know what that child was thinking, but that
Addie
is something
at
they did.
Addie at 2 somehow helped her and Kaden out of the bedroom window in the rain. And Kaden came to the front door, Mommy!
Wow.
It's
And
so
mind
quick
you, at
too.
that time, wait a second, if Addie was 2 and you had her at 18, you're a 20-year-old with a Houdini kid. What the heck?
We had to get the window locks, and then we ended up getting the magnetic door alarm too. She's just
Having children is not, yeah, it's not a joke. You have to be very creative in your parenting styles to keep everybody safe. But I mean, when
they're
you
all
have
different.
climbers, the kids are fearless. I mean, let's just face it, kids have no fear. We actually instill the fear in our kids by going, ugh, stop. And and our kids are always watching us. Our kids are always watching us and typically will do exactly what we do. So if we tell them not to do something and we're doing it, yeah, that's not a battle we're going to win. And her kids tell on her. I'm a witness. They do tell on mom.
They're always trying to rat me out.
They're always telling on mom. And they tell me because I listen and I tell her to do better. I'm like, Trisha, do better. Do better. You have 8 little eyeballs watching you. Do better. Okay, so that's balance, basically still figuring it out as you go, because that's a fact. We all figure it out. Elijah, let's talk about how great of a team player he is.
He just lets me do what I want to do. He just stands back and watches. I was talking to him yesterday. He came into the store when I was working. I was like, oh, by the way, I plan on buying this, this, and this to save for next year for wreaths. And he didn't even blink an eye at all. He's like, whatever. And if I'm live, he does really good about doing dinner and being with the kids and all of that. Since I've been working, he's helped pick up some slack on my end because I was used to doing everything, and it's hard to get past the looking at the mess. I still have a hard time with it.
Yeah, we're
But
still working that out with her. Because sometimes, guys, let's seriously have a conversation about this for a second, okay? Because I know what team I'm on. But at what point do you look around your home that is lived in, Lived, lived in? You have several different people living in your home, and you say, you know what? Things could be worse. This isn't that bad. And as long as there's not food rotting, honestly, this is the point I got at. As long as there's no food rotting and people aren't getting sick because there's poop everywhere. I mean, face it, I think the home's okay. I really do. I think it's okay. And I've told people, if you're coming to visit me in my home, then you can visit me. If you're coming to critique my home, I will show you where the cleaning products are. Make it more habitable for you. But it's a home. A home is lived in. Okay? So there comes a time where you just have to be, if I can get the kitchen to the point where I can cook, because I need a clean kitchen to cook too. If I can have the kitchen where it's ready for me to cook, that's a win.
I also have the floor issue with a baby. So, I mean, the house really does have to be clean. Like, it really does have to. I just don't have a choice. So when I look around and I'm like, I just have this whole list. It's just an ongoing list all the time.
But here's the other thing, okay? There's certain things that you can do that really can help. I mean, I'm a fan of Swiffer. I'm a huge fan of Swiffer. I can attach that little wet thing to the Swiffer and zoom, 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 and it's good to go. Okay? But what's hilarious though is when you think about she's got kids from the range of 10 to 1. What a 10-year-old thinks is clean is a lot different than what mom thinks is clean. And here's the other caveat. They don't have a dishwasher. So they don't have a machine that sanitizes and cleans their dishes. You're looking at the dishwasher that sanitizes and cleans their dishes. But sometimes, I mean, and I call it typically when you have, because that's when people are coming over, that's when you start to nitpick your home, period. Okay? And I say, if you're starting to nitpick your home based on who's coming over, maybe you should change the people that you're surrounding yourself with.
Like
It's the truth.
we had Isaiah's birthday party and I told you I was doing my kitchen. You go, are you playing fake house? I said, no. If I don't give myself a deadline, it's not going to get done. Guess what? It got done. It was a lot of work, but it got done.
I'm so proud of
And
you.
um, it was just family and stuff. Like they've been here before the kitchen was done. They don't care. They know, and they know that we're working on improving things. So,
But here's the thing. I say if you're not willing to help, which means using your hands, not your judgment. Like if you're not willing to scrub or put some elbow in it, then your judgment shouldn't be there, shouldn't exist, period. Because it's not, you never know what somebody's going through and where their mental health is. I always say my house is a reflection of what my head's going through. Is that true for you?
Mine must be opposite.
Okay. You stress clean? I did before kids. And I told my husband when they were young, I said, either the house is going to be spotless and your children are going to be dictated to, like they're going to be little soldiers and not live a childhood, or we can both share chores, have things. I mean, my house is livable. In other words, the places that need to be clean are clean. Am I good about dusting everything all the time? No, because every time I dust my throat, I'm serious, it's the worst thing. My throat, I'm out for 3 days because I can't function. And I'm like, that's not my thing. So what did my husband do? He got filters that pull a lot of that dust into the filter. Like it grabs a lot. So we don't have a huge dust problem. But at the same time, there are things you can do, like you can wipe surfaces down with stuff that doesn't attract dust. Do you know this? It's magical. So do those things and minimize the stuff. And also don't be knick-knacky. But you see, I'm a very knick-knacky type person. My bookshelves have books protruding from them. I've limited myself to what I can put on a shelf, and I can't get any more books based on that.
The only knick-knacky stuff that I have is stuff that was like my grandpa's.
Okay, that's fair. It's sentimental,
Yep.
right? It's sentimental stuff. And think about it though. Think about how much more knick-knacky the older generation was.
I'm the type of person, I'm like, pitch it, pitch it, pitch it, get it out of my house. We don't need it.
Yep.
My dad was not that way. It took
No.
me an entire week to get his house clean.
And a week is generous because a lot of people take longer than that. Did you
Oh,
have a
I
dumpster?
would. No, no. I was there from the time I woke up in the morning until like 2 a.m. every day for a week. With
Um,
no AC upstairs, mind you, and it was like 100 and something degrees outside. That summer didn't bother me at all.
so Connie said, don't dust. It might be someone.
Addie fell into the shelf where I have dad and grandpa and my grandma. And I said, careful, your grandpas can't catch you anymore.
I can't. I can't. So I'm assuming they're in urns in your home?
No,
Okay.
no. So my mom has a majority of my grandpa in an urn. Currently, he is in 2 medicine bottles because I'm going to get the little tiny urns for the kids and put his ashes in that. And then I have a necklace that's a cardinal that says grandpa. And he's in some of that. My dad is currently still in his box that he came home in because my brother is supposed to make the urns. He just hasn't gotten to it. And my grandma, I have a little bit of her in a mason jar, but she's inside of one of her old cookie jars that she had. But they all 3 got a bath last weekend, so it's fine. I told my mom that. She goes, well, they were old.
So this is the other side of what happens to loved ones when they're no longer in their bodies and what happens to their bodies. So personally, I'm not a fan of my ashes being split up and used for other things. That's just me. But I always tell my family I want to be planted, which they have biodegradable urns that you can then become a tree. And then, of course, my children, because talking about being unalive, it becomes funny because it's one of those uncomfortable things, and that's how we do it. But my daughter's like, so what if they cut that tree down and then you become paper? And I'm like, it's still useful. And I get recycled because people recycle paper. So it's fantastic. I'm perpetually keep going, right? So I perpetually keep going.
Kat and I were talking about this one day. I think it was Kat. Maybe it was Grace. Might have been Grace. I think it was Grace. No, they really, really think about it. But I can't keep plants alive.
Okay.
So if we would have done that with my dad or my grandpa, they would have had a second unaliving.
But here's the thing. If you're, I mean, honestly, trees, I don't know about your backyard, but my trees, I don't take care of them. They're
I
just,
don't have any trees.
oh, see, that's okay. So trees in essence really don't need a lot of care. They need their roots to, oh gosh, I forget what you call it. But anyway, they need their roots to root. Let's just say that. And once they're rooted, I mean, there's no actual physical care unless it's a fruit tree. And I don't want to be a fruit tree.
But what
I do
happens if
not.
you move?
What happens if I move or if my family move? I don't want my family to have to worry about my ashes or where I'm going to be or
I'm just
whatever.
taking them all with me and they're having a family reunion on the shelf.
I can't with you.
I told my mom that she'll end up there too, and I'm going to just watch her and my dad's urns shake when they fight.
What? That just happened. So you're perpetuating a family feud? Is that what's Okay. All right, that's weird, Trisha. That's definitely strange. I love you. So, based on all these things that we have learned about Trisha and the things that she has gone through, you see where her, I'm going to say, humor, whether you call it dark or not, where her humor comes from. But there's something really beautiful that came from all of this, and that is embedded in her legacy of her company name. So go ahead and share Twisted Emerald Wreath Co.
So I came up with the name. I actually got online and did like a Google business name generator. But I was thinking twisted because when you look at a grapevine, it's pretty twisty and fun, maybe a little dark. Um, but emerald is my birthstone, but green was also my grandpa's favorite color. So Twisted Emerald Wreath, and then my Etsy shop I opened on my dad's birthday. So there's a little bit more within all of it than just I threw a name out there. There is meaning and all of that behind it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of thought, a lot of intentionality, and I mean, it doesn't take much to look up what's available as far as a business name. You just need to know where to go to do that. Um, so with everything that you have going on, and often when you are live, you share about taking care of a neighbor. How does that play into your daily roles?
So it's not consistent, but her daughter is also my chiropractor, and she was gone in Hawaii for 3 weeks. So I was over taking care of her. I was getting her dressed, making sure her dishes were done. Kat was taken care of, doing her showers and all of that. And actually, that all started back when I had my gallbladder taken out. It was the day I had surgery. I overheard her talking in the driveway about them sending their mom to a nursing home. And I've worked in nursing homes. I didn't send my grandpa, didn't send my dad because I've worked there. I don't want that for anybody. And I'm able. I'm able. So I went over there and I was like, hey, stop. I can help. I'm home. So that's just been a thing since July that I go over whenever they need me and I spend time with her. She is actually an artist. She does oil paintings and everything. I gifted her a wreath for Christmas. I just love her. She's like my grandma. And I have a soft spot for elderly people. I love them and they always seem to like me. But I just love sitting over there talking to her, making sure she's taken care of and that she doesn't have to leave her home.
Right.
Because that's very important to me that she won't have to leave her home.
Now, you said that you wouldn't put your dad or your grandfather in a nursing home. And for a lot of families, depending on what their family member is going through, they don't have an option. That's medically, a lot of times, it's the only option. Or if the individual is not well enough to care for themselves, but what was your experience as far as what nursing homes, like what's something that people should ask or keep up with or be aware of whenever they're thinking about or having to put a loved one in a nursing home?
I mean, honestly, I would spend a day there. I would sit there and I would watch. A lot of times they don't have enough CNAs to patient ratio. When it was, COVID, I had gotten out of nursing because it was myself and one other aide taking care of 50 to 75 patients on our own. And they were expecting us to get all showers done, them moved around in bed every 2 hours. A majority of these people were two assists. So it would take both of us. There is absolutely no way that's going to happen. Had my dad gone into a nursing home, he would have had bed sores. But with him being home and us being able to take care of him, he had nothing. He had no pressure, ulcers, no nothing. Um, and if you are looking at a nursing home, maybe look into home health instead. Home health care. I absolutely would not ever put a loved one in a nursing home because I know what they're like. I know the kind of care that they receive. No matter how hard they try to do the care that they're supposed to be doing and what they deserve, they're not getting it.
So, what do you say when people say that their loved ones, like, they turned mean, like they would get very adamant or throw things or bite or hit or those type of things, because that does happen. And I don't know for a fact that this is the case, but I can only imagine if they're getting hurt, if they're getting not getting the care that they need, that would cause that to happen.
Yep. So my favorite place actually to work when I was in a nursing home was the dementia unit. I loved working with dementia and Alzheimer's patients. Um, and honestly, if they're having a bad day, it's not going to be every day. And that one or two instances of them, biting you or throwing a pop on you, which I've had happen. I had one slap me across the face. I've had one literally punching me. And you can't do anything to them. That is their reality in the moment. And the best thing that you can do is put yourself into their reality and slowly pull them back to what really is reality. But you can't just sit there and tell them, no, that's not what's happening, or your wife is no longer with us, or this or that. If they're in that moment, be in that moment with them. You're going to learn a lot about them when you step into that moment with them.
Right. But that's a gift and a skill, and not everybody has it. There is such a gross need for people to help and care for others that I think the vetting and the schooling for what needs to actually be training for these situations has fallen to the wayside. They're taking anybody at any time because they need people, they need bodies.
Yep. Yeah, and that's really hard because they'll take anybody. Not everybody is going to be a good CNA. Not everybody is going to be a good nurse. Some nurses are in it for the money. I mean, that's why I said if you are looking at a nursing home, you need to spend a day there.
Now, how different is, for example, a nursing home versus assisted living?
Assisted living, they still do a lot by themselves. I did work in an assisted living and I would make sure that their laundry was done and put away. I would make sure that they were getting their meals, that they were getting the correct medications and all of that. But most of everything they did on their own. You might have to help them with a shower, but otherwise they get up, they typically get themselves dressed. They might need help with their socks. And that's basically what I'm doing with my neighbor is assisted living, but in her home.
Right. That's basically what I was getting at. So what you're doing for your neighbor is offering the assisted living portion of it. So does she cook for herself and things like that?
She gets meals delivered from a restaurant here in town. A couple of her kids pitch in to pay for that every week. She gets meals Tuesday through Friday. And then if she gets her own breakfast, she usually eats like a banana or some banana bread, stuff like that. And for lunch, if I go over in the morning, we figure out what she's going to have. She has me put it in the microwave so she can just warm it up on her own. And then she puts it on her walker and takes it to the living room with her.
Yeah. So
So,
that's basically what you're providing this neighbor of yours and the family. Because that is peace of mind that somebody's right there if anything should happen or if anything should be needed. And that somebody said it seems like this is your calling. Because a lot of people, I mean, I always say, and we giggle about this, but I always say with children especially, and I'm just gonna talk about children. There's an age group that you enjoy, that you relate to, that you can connect with. And a lot of people have that gift where the connectability is with the elderly. Like they don't see them as a burden or their storytelling gets old or they don't see them as anything other than magical human beings and they're willing to sit there for hours, however long that person wants to talk. And that's a gift. That is a gift. Um, and you have that for the elderly. It's obvious with everything that you shared and the love that you show to those that are loved by you. You have a big heart, you know, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying I just had a bad thought. I'm not saying that that people don't typically feel that way, but there's a difference. It's different when you are willing to help somebody shower that can't. Think about that for a minute. It's just different. And she's obviously trained to do those type of things. And it's not gross. And it doesn't creep you out. You know, here's a funny story, and if you know my husband, you'll know this to be true. I've asked him, I said, what if I can't wipe myself anymore? Are you gonna help me? He goes, bend over, I'll get the hose. That is, but if you know my husband, I mean, that's a problem. He's solving the problem.
you just need to get up a day.
Or he'll laugh at me and he goes, "You have friends that are nurses, you know, you'll be fine." I'm like, "Really? Really? That's what this is gonna look like. Good to know. Good to know." And I'm like, I am so grateful that Trisha is much younger than me because, you know, if I need any type of medical help, she's gonna be able to point me in the right direction. See, and Tracy is part of our Discord group. We're going to talk about that in a second. But Tracy is part of our Discord group, and often when she joins us, she is sitting with the elderly, hanging out with the elderly, helping with the elderly. She's another one that has that gift. I call it a gift. It's a skill. It's a gift. My jam is 2 and 3 year olds. Those are my
You
people.
have them.
I know those are my people, and they know it too. Any 2 or 3 year old that's ever been around me, they gravitate to me. They just know they're my people. I just love the preschool age. I love the age before they're combative and they're combative or have their own ideas about certain things and you know all those things. So the 2 and 3 year olds, they have a wonderful way of looking at life. They have a wonderful way of being fearless. And you don't want to squash that ever in a young person. You want to basically let them do what they want to do with supervision. Just watch out for them. You know, just be there if they fall. Let them fall because they need to learn what that feels like.
I
But
guess I
then
do like that age. I guess it's more of that preschool, kindergarten, that age.
yeah.
We're not friends. And I have
I,
one of those.
I understand. I get that.
And then now I have a 9 and 10-year-old, and they're at that age where they think they know everything and they'll fight you tooth and nail over exactly what time it is. You're not allowed to round up or down.
You have a
It's,
literal. You have a literal.
yes, I would rather have the little acid trip, crazy toddler years because they're your bestie. They're like your drunk bestie.
Oh, why did we have to go there?
But it's so true.
You know what I call I basically I raised two little people that that basically didn't understand that things cost money and didn't they were limited only by their imagination. So there were times where the word NO would come out and it would be, but why? Well, what you're asking to do is a lot more expensive than you think it is.
Yeah.
And there's just things that no is okay, no is a complete sentence. I don't have to explain.
Yeah.
But yeah, they think so. Angel said they think black and white. Another person said they relate to teens. Teens are enough. So I'm with the little bitties, or give me 15 and up. I'm right there. Relatable, all the things. Angela with Barrel Reese says life skills are also offers help for those that have special needs in their home. So um she had said earlier that the ones that can't verbalize, that can't speak for themselves, are taken advantage in homes that, in nursing homes and in assisted living situations when they can't speak for themselves. That's super unfortunate, really super awful. And I hate that for families that are looking for resources and are struggling to find help for their loved ones. And it's perpetual, right? So it's not something that goes away. It's not something that is going to change right away. And in speaking to somebody else who lives in another country, I mean, people, how often do you hear people say, I'm moving to Canada, their healthcare is free? It's not free. It's really not. They are taxed to the nines to afford that health care. And not only are they taxed to the nines to afford that health care is subpar. It's not good health care. So it's that whole Angel just said, which is my Canadian friend, she hates when people say that. And I understand that. I get that. But there's a lot of things that we don't know about the things that where we don't live. So it's always good to inform yourselves. So in looking all the things that you and I had talked about and said that you wanted to touch on, we've basically touched on all of them. Is there anything additional that you want to talk about or share with your audience? She's like,
I
does
guess
anybody have
it's
any?
a
Okay,
question.
here's a question for those that are wreath makers. Um, in pricing your items, do you have a way of figuring that out, a formula?
Thank you. So I'll take all of my supplies, unless it's a big, expensive, like centerpiece.
Mhm.
I'll multiply that all by, our normal like 2, 2.5, or 3. And I have a set amount for my bows and ribbon tails that I just automatically add in because they're all around the same size or the same amount of ribbon. It just helps me to not have to say, okay, well, I use this many inches of this. So I'm not measuring everything like I used to. I have a set price for how much mesh I use because I use right about the same amount of mesh in every wreath that I use or do. So mesh and ribbon, one set price. And then I have my frame. I do charge for that. I charge for the tools that I use, just a little portion because they don't pay for themselves. So I add in like, what is it, like a dollar or two per wreath for that. And that will include my hot glue, my pipe cleaners, all of that stuff. And then if it's a big centerpiece, I just will tack that on after I add up everything that I used and multiplied that. Um, I then do add in my Etsy fees for listing and selling on Etsy, and then I include my shipping. So if somebody is going to purchase local, this is what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be working on a code that I can give to my local people so it will take off for being local.
Okay. So
If
local pricing will be different because that's a question that several of us get as well is if I'm local and you're charging this amount for a wreath that you offer free shipping, does it mean that if I'm buying it local that comes off of the price? So, right. So that is something that you need to consider and think about. So here's a fun question. What does Trisha like to do for fun? Like when Trisha gets to do fun things, what does Trisha like to do?
when do I do fun things?
That's why it's a fun question. Because I'm sure that there are things that you do make time for because you need it for an escape or something that just gets you out of the daily grind or the routine. What is something that you do?
Actually, we enjoy playing board games and card games, which is something that I used to do with my grandpa all the time.
Okay.
So that's something that I always like revert back to. And Elijah's little brother has been here for the past week because he's on spring break. He's 13 and he loves playing board games and card games. So I play games with him when we have time, and like on the weekends if we're not working, we'll play some games, we'll have a few drinks, and it's just at home.
Right. But is there a particular game that you gravitate to?
So we started playing Uno No Mercy.
Ooh,
I
that's
said that looks like
competitive.
a great way to lose friends, and I'm here for it.
Oh, so so you're basically challenging how good your friendships are because it's competitive. I get it. I get it. We've talked about the game Spoons, right?
Yep.
Playing Spoons.
I
And
taught my
if you
kids that
don't,
game.
I was gonna say if you don't know what that is, definitely look it up. There's several videos out there of families playing Spoons. If you have anyone in your circle of family or friends that's competitive, when I tell you, you will be laughing for days because of how competitive that game can get. Um, you just have to be careful of your nails not ending up being like claws because let me tell you, there has been blood spilled with just going to grab a spoon. So it's a very competitive game, but it's a lot of fun and a lot of laughs.
When I was a
Um,
little kid, I remember watching, my parents, well, my mom and all of like her cousins and everything at grandma's. They would play spoons. And there was like 15 of them. So there'd be all kinds of spoons in the middle of the table. They would like hit it like this. They would go up and hit the fan. There was a time they were flying across the table. It
I'm
gets
telling you, it is a contact sport.
But this summer I'm going to be working with the kids, teaching them how to play baseball and softball because that was a love of mine when I was younger.
That's awesome.
I played softball from first grade all the way until my freshman year, but I hurt my arm. So, but I was a third baseman and I pitched a little bit, but I get to teach them that this summer.
That's fun. All right. So what's your guilty pleasure? And if you say peanut butter, I'm gonna smack you.
Those are
Weirdo.
good. No, my guilty pleasure would be binge watching Gordon Ramsay.
Really? Why?
I love watching him yell at people. I'm just glad it's not me.
Oh, so you like other people getting yelled at. Oh my word. Out of
Maybe
all the things,
that's an oldest child syndrome thing.
is it?
Maybe because I hated getting yelled at, but when my brother got yelled at, I was like, "What'd you
Oh,
do?"
okay. Okay. Well, I can see that, I guess. But that being a guilty pleasure, Gordon Ramsay.
I fall asleep to watching him every night.
I fall asleep to watching Friends.
Yep, I fall asleep to Gordon Ramsay every night.
We are very different. Okay. So, what's the strangest place you take your phone to watch TikTok?
It's been in my shower.
Care to elaborate?
I just put it up in the corner. I don't want to miss anything.
You guys heard it here. What on earth would you be missing in the 15 to 20 minutes that you'd be in the shower?
There's a lot that can happen in 15 to 20 minutes, and I have to be there for it all.
You can't
I'm
tap your
nosy.
screen. You can't comment.
No, but I can watch.
What are you watching?
Sometimes it's wreath making, sometimes it's just other TikToks, and I'll just keep scrolling as I'm in there. I'll scroll, but majority of the time, if my phone is in the shower with me, I'm on a FaceTime, typically with my sister.
That's what I was
she's,
going for right there.
she's like way up in the top, so all she sees is like the top of my head. But usually we're having a conversation that just can't be stopped. I'm like, hey, I gotta get in the shower. She's like, okay.
I don't know if you can read the comments right now, but somebody said, hey, didn't we discuss this before? I didn't ask her if she takes her phone into the shower. I asked her what the strangest place she watches TikTok is. That's what I asked her. And the fact that she has FaceTime conversations with a sibling. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever dropped your phone while you're on it with somebody? It happens. It
I
happens. What is your biggest fear?
falling down my stairs and nobody being home and just
Wow.
yep. So I try to stay away from stairs. I'm very, very accident prone.
Okay.
Like very accident prone, and that is my biggest fear.
Have you ever fallen down the stairs?
Yep. I trip over my own feet. I did it at work and I slid down some shelving and had a big bruise on my hip and my shin. The cat saw it. It was
Well,
bad.
well, that's a legit fear for sure. What's a pet peeve?
So, one is like for at home. My biggest pet peeve is stuff not getting picked up after being used, and I'm trying to train my children, but they leave their cups from dinner the night before on the table, so every morning I have to pick them up. They won't put things where they belong, and then they can't find it, so they're asking me, and I'm like, I'm not the keeper of all of the things. That is not in the job description.
Yes, it is, actually. Nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that, but all of a sudden you become the knower of where they put all their things.
Well, I'm trying to train them out of it. Um, Otherwise, like out in the world is hate. There's no reason to be so full of hate. Like we should just, why can't we be kind? I try to live being kind and generous and help. And that's what I'm teaching my kids too. Not to the point of being like a pushover. That doesn't have to be included in that. But to the point where if somebody asks you for help and if you're able, you should be willing to help and you shouldn't be sitting there judging somebody that you don't know.
Right.
Which I have done. One of my coworkers, the first time I worked with her, I told her, I said, I thought you were a raging bee just because of your face. But I was honest with her and she started laughing because she's like, I promise I'm not mean.
Wow. I can't tell you how often I've been told that they don't know people don't know how to take me because if you've ever caught me like when I'm not on my game, I'm unfiltered most of the time and things just come out and they're not meant in the way that they're sometimes received. However, regardless, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And I'm like, if I didn't care, I wouldn't say anything. So if I care, that's when I say something. So understand it's out of a good place, not a bad place.
Yeah, I just told her, I was like, you didn't say anything to me. We just kind of looked at each other, and I was getting the wrong vibe from you. But I was honest with her too. Like, I judged her, but then, like, we talked, and, like, I didn't have anything against her from, that first meeting that we had. But we work so well together. Like, we're like two peas in a pod.
That's
And she has her nose pierced, and we were talking last night because we have a manager in training at our store right now, which awful all in its own. But
and hopefully they
she
won't
was
see this video, but that's all right. She's being
but
honest. She's being
she was
honest.
like, when I smile, I look like cousin It. And I'm like, and she goes, Trisha walks around all the time just smiling and looks so happy. And this other manager goes, well, maybe it's because of your piercings. And she goes, Trisha has a nose piercing too, but everyone thinks she's adorable.
So there's that as well. So here's a funny one. What did you want to be when you grew up? When you were younger, what did you want to be?
I actually wanted to go to school to do hair.
Okay.
And then for a while I wanted to be an interior designer, but I kind of guess it's all
I
there.
guess it's all there in several different pieces and
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, I
I
get that.
actually cut the girls' hair. I don't take them to go get it done. I do it myself. There's been many times that when my hair's really long, I'll give myself trims, and I've cut Caden's hair before. He doesn't like it when I cut it because it takes too long, but I'm also not trained. But
I
I've
don't
done
know what I'm
stuff.
doing, buddy, so be patient.
Yeah, I've done stuff with hair. I've done stuff with makeup. I now make home decor. So, and I never had to be trained to do it.
No, you're self-taught in a lot of the things that
Yeah.
you do, which is awesome. I mean, honestly, the thing is, we limit ourselves. I think we are our own worst critics, and we limit ourselves. Nobody limits us to what we can and cannot accomplish, and we can and can't do. So I get that. I get that. And like I said, I'm not your mom, and I know that you've adopted me as your mom, but I'm so proud of you. I really am so very proud of you. And I'm grateful that you have shared your story and that you have shared the ups and downs of everything that you have been through. And like I said, anytime you watch this woman live, you will always get a very honest, very silly, very fun live, especially depending on what's going on in the background. You'll hear the kids. Sometimes you'll see the kids. But just remember that um, we all have stories. Everybody has a story. And don't be quick to judge. If you have a question, Trisha's happy to answer whatever questions you want. I mean, interaction in the lives is very much welcomed.
Yep.
Has anybody ever asked you a question during your live that kind of made you take a step back and been like, I don't know that this is appropriate to answer here?
I don't know. I think I'm the one that starts those kinds of conversations.
Possible. It's very, very possible. So you've never had somebody ask an off the wall question?
Well, I guess I did. It was just a weirdo creep, and Grace was there and said, block. But I was responding to them. I was like, sorry,
Okay.
I'm taken. But
Okay. But I guess people weren't having it. So here's the thing with watching creators go live, and they're basically promoting their business and putting themselves out there to hopefully drive sales for their business. There are questions that come through our chats, and we don't want to ignore you. That is not the purpose of us going live. So if somebody's asking questions based on business, Trisha, what do you typically do to handle that?
I tell them that I can make a tutorial if they need, help with something. I can make a tutorial and put it on my TikTok. I've had a lot of people ask me questions about bows, and my bows have come a long, long, long way. They are beautiful. So I've really been considering putting a bow tutorial on my Etsy. One, it's passive income. Two, it's going to help people that need that help, and I'm not going to have to do it over and over and over again because I don't have the time for that. Um, but yeah, mostly it's just I can make a tutorial to help you.
Right.
I'm not going to talk about my pricing and stuff like that. That's
But
just
you do get
something.
those questions. You obviously do get those questions because other creators are always looking for information. And when you don't know what to ask, it's hard. It's hard to figure it out because you don't know what to Google. You don't know what to ask Google to share with you. So whenever that type of situation presents itself and somebody really desperately is looking for a place for answers, do you have a place that you send them to?
I don't, but I always tell them that I'm open for messages. So
Okay.
that's where I send them, and then we'll talk more in depth about what they need and what could possibly help them, like what they do, and if they do something that they could benefit from Discord, I can always send them there.
Right. So there's that, what I was aiming at is when you had questions.
Oh, when I had
No, here
questions.
we go. Here's the question. When you had questions and you saw people that were doing the things that you wanted to do, that you wanted to do more of, you saw the materials they were using, you saw that stuff, and you had those burning questions like you want to know, and you see somebody interacting with their chat, the first thing that comes to mind is, let me ask the question here. But then again, like you said, the person would be answering each person as they come into their live, and they could have already shared it 50 times.
Right.
What do you do with the questions then? Do you automatically go and message that person? Will you message that person offline and ask them? What do you do?
That's what I did with Kayla. I messaged her.
Yep. Yep. So that's okay
Like
too, guys.
she would answer some things on her lives, like if it wasn't like super like, oh, we're not going to talk about that type of thing. Mostly it would just be like, oh, hey, where'd you get that? She would say, and Google. But yeah, I messaged her on TikTok.
So does it help that people put the places that they shop, they put their tools, they put all the things that has to do with their business? Is it helpful that they put those links where you can get access them?
Yes, because I have that too. So I've had a lot of people ask about my bow maker, and I always tell them it was like $9 on Amazon. So you can try it out. If you don't like it, you're not out $30, $40. And I've sent people to my links in my profile and told them it's linked there. I don't make anything off of it, but it's there. So it's
Right.
easy for them to find.
So it's information that is easily accessible to anybody who wants to learn how you do what you do, the information for the things that you use and the places that you shop.
Yep.
So you heard it here. Tutorials are coming. It's passive income for the creators. She's looking into how to get that done and how to do that. So those are all things that are beneficial for you, your business, and where you're at.
And I have other stuff coming hopefully this summer, but now I'll have time. So
Like
it could
TBD,
happen
to be
sooner.
determined, to be shared, to be the future things. So thank you, Trisha, for taking this time. Thank you for sitting with me today, sharing your story. So many people are going to connect with you in a deeper way based on your experiences in your past and the things that you're dealing with. So thank you for that, and thank you for being so open. I appreciate that so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us here for Real Talk this morning. We appreciate you. The community is strong. We love our Wreath community, and we're grateful for everyone that was able to hang out with us today. And if you have any additional questions, whatever that may be, feel free to message Trisha. She is the kindest, sweetest soul, and would love to hear from you. And until next time, we will see you guys around TikTok. Thank you so much. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.